everyone. It is my pleasure to have the Associate Director of Communications and Stakeholder Relations at Toronto Sickkids, Lisa Charendoff. Thank you so much for joining my podcast.
I'm really happy to be here with you, Zander. I've been watching you, and you've done a huge amount, and it's really impressive.
So this is also gonna help me a lot with my NHL tour. So I want to thank you for that as well. So
we'll see.
Can you please give us an overview of Toronto Sickkids and who you serve?
Sure. So just to be clear, I work at Sickkids Foundation, and we exist to be the fundraising arm of Sickkids. Toronto's Hospital for Sick Children has almost, since it was founded in 1875, been known by everyone just as Sickkids. So in a nutshell, we are both a local hospital, but we're also a global leader in pediatric healthcare. And in fact, Zander, in 2021, Newsweek named Sickkids as the #1 pediatric healthcare center in the world.
Really?
Really. So that was
Wow.
A huge honor, and we were very, very pleased to get that honor. It was a pretty exhaustive process that they undertook. So what I like people to know is that we are Canada's most research-intensive hospital, and we are the largest center dedicated to improving children's health in the country. We also, you asked like who we serve. We also serve children who need us from around the world. We have a global child health program. We have an international patient program. And sometimes we're so lucky in Canada. We have so many children's hospitals. We have them in all of the provinces, but sometimes, Zander, there are things that only Sickkids has the expertise to help. So we will see kids not just from Toronto, but from all over Ontario and from all over Canada too. Wow. So, there's some things that, like I'm aware of kids who need a whole bunch of organs at one time to be transplanted, and they can only do it at Sickkids. So they will come here from their home province, get the transplant done here, and then go home. So we have really a huge reach in the city, in the province, in the country, and around the world. And I also want you to know that we're one of the biggest educators in child health. We educate clinicians and researchers from all over the world. We have about 2,000 trainees from 70 countries. Wow. And the last thing I want to tell you is that everything we do at Sickkids and at Sickkids Foundation is supporting the vision that we have, which is healthier children, a better world. So that's what we're about.
So can you tell us about the role of the foundation and talk about your responsibilities?
Yeah, so Sickkids Foundation is actually about to celebrate our 50th anniversary. So we were established in 1972. And at that time, it became really, really clear that the hospital had great ambitions for research and care advancements, and that we needed a very professional approach to fundraising. So in fact, we are the largest charitable funder of child health research in Canada. And actually last year, we hit a huge milestone. We're in a big campaign. I think we'll talk about it in a little while. But in that big campaign last year, we reached the milestone of securing our 1 millionth donor to the campaign. Not $1 million, but 1 million people donating to this campaign. And this big campaign that we're going to talk about has a huge goal of $1.5 billion. Wow. Last year, we raised almost $170 million.
People often talk about how Canadian hospitals are funded by the government. Can you tell us why it is so important that hospitals receive funding from other sources?
Sure. So everybody's right. Government, we're so lucky in this country of Canada to live here and have our health care provided. So when you needed help, your parents took you to your local children's hospital, you got great help, and they didn't come away with a bill to pay for your care. So that's true. The government does fund all the basic care and beyond. But it's all the extra things, Xander. Like when we want to make a huge difference in children's health, we want to do research. And the government is not going to pay for all the research that we want to do. And they're not going to pay for all the infrastructure of all the research we want to do. All the test tubes and all the labs and all the people is not covered by the government. Researchers can get grants and stuff, but we want to help those researchers do their work, do it well, do it faster. We want to make sure that our spaces are better than what we have now. So let me give you an example. The government will help with improving spaces, but they don't have the funds. They turn to us and they say, you need to go to the public and raise money for this part, this exciting thing that you want to do. So if you look at technology today, it's changing fast.
Yeah.
And your house, for example, maybe your house, I don't know, maybe I'm imagining things. Maybe it's 30 years old. I don't know. But if you were using a stove that was 30 years old, it might not work so well today.
Right.
So we want to make sure that we have the absolute best spaces that accommodate new technology and that are the best things for healing children. We know that children aren't mini adults. So when they go to the hospital, it's frightening. There's all kinds of stuff that they've never experienced before.
Right.
So we have at the hospital, you may be familiar with this, people that are called child life specialists. We have therapeutic clowns. We have music therapy. We have art therapy. Those are things that aren't covered by the government. It's donors who cover them. And they're not like an extra. They are so important to help kids feel calm and prepared and ready to go into surgery or have a test. And all of these staff members are a really important part of making a childhood hospital experience manageable for the child, but also for the parents. So it's things like that that aren't covered at all by the government that donors help us pay for. So we think that that stuff is pretty much as important as the medicine kids get when they're in the hospital, as the surgeries they have, the tests they have, that keeping them happy and calm and relaxed and prepared and not frightened is critically important. So those are some of the things that donors pay for that we need help because we don't get enough. It's not something that the government needs to pay for. They pay for our medical care. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Seeing that I'm using the NHL as leverage to help get my message out, can you tell us how important it is to have an ongoing commitment from the Toronto Maple Leafs?
So let's talk about the Leafs. So we're so grateful for the relationship we have with them. But the Leafs, I don't know if you know this, but they have their own charitable organization called MLSE Launchpad. It's part of all the MLSE sports teams. So the Leafs and the Raptors, et cetera, they're all part of it. And they have their own fundraising that they do for that. What they do in partnership with Sickkids is they do a visit to the hospital every year, usually around the Christmas holidays. They come and they meet patients. They go room to room. They sign things for the patients. They get to know some of the patients, and they offer their emotional support and their fame that way to make hospitalizations easier. They have been fantastic partners for many, 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 many years, and we really, really appreciate. On top of that, you may have seen in the news that there are certain players who have a particularly special relationship with Sickkids. One that has been very public about what he does is Auston Matthews.
Yeah.
And that's because he has a family connection with a disease that is diagnosed in childhood called cystic fibrosis. And so he has a personal family connection with it. And the minute he came to Toronto, he said, I want to do something to make the experience of kids who have cystic fibrosis better. I want to try and motivate and make them feel better. And he's been a fantastic partner for the hospital in that way. So there's the organization, and then there's the individual players. We also have a couple of rooms in the hospital. We have one that one of our goalies in the Leafs many years ago, Curtis Joseph, named a room, and it's full of NHL gear and sticks and shirts and lots of Curtis Joseph stuff. And then we have the Ty Domi Rehabilitation Clinic in the hospital too. So we've got these connections all through the hospital, and we really, really appreciate the MLSE relationship that we have.
So you're wrapping up a very important capital campaign that has been in works since 2017. Can you tell us about Sick Kids versus Limits and talk about the importance of building a hospital of the future?
Yeah, so you're right. It is the Sick Kids versus campaign. And I mentioned before, it's a $1.5 billion fundraising campaign. So we talked a couple of seconds ago about technology and how quickly it changes. We can do things now in a patient's room that we would never be able to have been able to do in the past. So in the past, patient would have to leave the room, go in their stretcher, go a tremendous distance, get a test done. Now, sometimes these things can be done at the bedside, but you need doorways big enough for equipment to come in. So when you're building the hospital for the future, you're always trying to think of what might it be like in the future. Right. So we have a huge team working on trying to imagine how we're going to use technology, how we're going to use artificial intelligence in medicine, and what do you need to have in place so that the building functions in the future. We also know that there are places like critical care, which is where a patient would go right after a big open heart surgery, for example. And when our building was built, it was thought that critical care needed to have multiple patients in one room. And so that there'd be 5 or 6 nurses looking after 5 or 6 patients in one room at a time. That meant that parents couldn't sleep in the room with their child. So we've learned a lot of things over the years, and an example like that says, no, that made sense back when this building was designed. But today we know that when a child has had a serious operation, they want their parents in the room with them all the time. So our new hospital is understanding what's changed. What have we learned in the years since the original or the older hospital was built? And how can we make this building work into the future? And even if you think about the pandemic and not being able to have families close by, what do we need to have there in the hospital of the future so that we experience these things better and give families a better experience? We know that our numbers are only going to go up and up and up. And we also know that complexity of the kids that we're looking for is only going to get more serious. So we want to make sure that we have the best space for the challenges that we're going to be facing in the future.
Aside from the capital campaign, how can people help support Toronto Sick Kids, and how are those funds distributed throughout the hospital?
Okay, so let's just talk about sort of how we get the funds to the hospital. There's the big capital campaign, and then there's ongoing things that our hospital needs us to help them fund. So every year, our hospital sits down with us, the fundraisers, and says, these are our priorities for this year. It's a very solid, rigorous process. And then we as fundraisers know what we're asking our donors to support. And then we make sure that we're able to raise money for all of those things that the hospital has asked us to raise money for. So donors are helping to keep sick kids right on that kind of edge of leading innovative healthcare. And we can't do it without our donors. I think what it really means is that our donors are able to be to help us be revolutionary in helping kids like you were helped, not at Sickkids, but at your local children's hospital. So we're really working hard to be able to diagnose and treat each child according to their own unique genetic profiles. This is new stuff. So we hope that we're going to be able to predict what that child is going to need rather than that child over there. So the unique genetic profile is going to help us do that. It's going to help us in some cases prevent things from happening because we're going to be able to a little bit predict the future. So we're going to be able to predict what might happen to that child and take action before it actually happens. And that stuff is really science fiction, exciting stuff. And then our donors help us with all of our work in cancer care and cancer research, in heart research and care, artificial intelligence in medicine. Like, they're starting to use artificial intelligence to predict which child in the critical care unit might have their heart stop before it happens. I mean, that's fantastic to be able to use data that way. And a lot of that cutting edge work is funded by donors.
That's awesome. That's
awesome.
Amazing. That's amazing. So we've come to the end of our interview.
Oh, so fast.
I want to thank you a lot. Very much. It was a great interview. And this is going to help me out a lot.
Great. Well, all the best of luck to you. And I'm not sure this is helping you get to the NHL, but let me know if I can help with that.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, Zander. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello out there, we're on the air, it's hockey night tonight. Tension grows, the whistle blows, and the puck goes down the ice. The goalie jumps and the players bump and the fans all go insane. Someone roars, Bobby scores at the good old hockey game. Oh, the good old hockey game is the best game you can name. And the best game you can name is the good old hockey game. Second period, where players dash with skates aflash. The home team trails behind, but they grab the puck and go bursting up, and they're down across the line. They storm the crease like bumblebees. They travel like a burning flame. We see them slide the puck inside. It's a 1-1 hockey game.
What I want, you've got, and it might be hard to handle. But like a flame that burns a candle, the candle feeds the flame. Yeah, what I got, full stock of thoughts and dreams that scatter. And you pull them all together, and I
at the Ford Performance Center, home of the Toronto Maple Leafs practice facility, about to interview Auston Matthews. Let's go. Really, so you didn't take the typical route to the NHL. How did your year in the Swiss League prepare you for the NHL, and what impact did Mark Crawford have on that development?
I think my year in the Swiss League was really beneficial for I think a lot of different reasons. I think playing against men and playing in a professional league against guys that have a lot of experience playing professionally, whether it be in the NHL, AHL, or across other European leagues, and I thought that was a really positive challenge for me in itself. And then playing for an NHL coach that obviously has that experience as well, and that could kind of help me develop in the right areas to prepare me for the NHL the following year. So I had a lot of really good memories over there. Played with Dennis Malgin and a couple other guys that are now in the NHL as well. So it was definitely a very memorable year for myself and my family. And we always talk about if we had to do it all over again, we absolutely would.
So you come from a family of great athletes: baseball, golf, football, but no hockey. I read that you were inspired by the Coyotes. What was it about hockey that attracted you to the game, and what was your progression like as a player at such a young age?
I'm not really sure exactly what drew me in to start, but I guess just going and watching and seeing them play in person, I really just wanted to play and wanted to try it out for myself. And once I did, I just fell in love with the game and was just having so much fun playing. So that was kind of how it all started. And my parents, have always been so supportive, and they just want us to do what makes us happy. And so hockey was obviously something that made me very happy. And so they signed me up for just kind of the generic house league stuff, and then it just kind of progressed into a little bit of a higher and higher level as you kind of progress through youth hockey, and that's kind of how it all started.
So in the year 2000, there were only 150 U.S. players in the NHL. Today, there are close to 600. The U.S. men are ranked 4th in the world, and the women 2nd. Do you see the game growing throughout the U.S. with more NHLers being produced from the southern states?
Absolutely. I think just in general, I think hockey's grown so much in the U.S. Over the last 10, 20 years, but I think it's a lot of guys coming out of non-traditional hockey markets. Like myself, like Seth Jones or Shane Gostisbehere, guys coming out of Florida and Texas, California, and these states that maybe aren't necessarily that well known for producing hockey players, and then obviously other places like traditional, like Chicago or Minnesota, Detroit, and the East Coast and stuff. And I think a big part of that's been the growth of the national team, the development program that I find a lot of U.S. American guys kind of go through and to their journey to the NHL. But it's obviously very very cool to see and fun to see the growth and just be a part of it as well.
So, what is the most valuable piece of advice you have received that has helped you be the person and player you are today?
That's a really good question. I think I've really gotten a lot of good advice throughout my life and throughout my career, and I think one that just kind of pinpoints just I guess life in general and life in the NHL is that there's never a bad day in the NHL. No matter what the ups and downs you go through throughout the season, there's always it could always be worse. And I think just being really grateful and fortunate for the stuff that you do have, and counting your blessings every day. I think that's really important, for me, and just trying to keep perspective throughout a long, hard season and just life in general.
And is there one person who has given you that advice, or has just been giving you advice throughout your whole career? Is there just that one person that is?
I lean on my dad a lot, so he's always given me great advice. My agent, who I don't really refer to as my agent, he's more like a friend or a brother or family. I've been with him since I was 13, and he really is like family. So we have a great relationship, and he's somebody that I lean on a lot too, and that I trust, and that gives me great advice. But actually, the one about there's never a bad day in the NHL. Actually, Pat Maroon kind of gave me that advice. Well, I was 18, so it must have been 7 years ago, 8 years ago at the World Championships in Russia. I was playing. We played together on the U.S. team, and I heard him give that advice, and it always kind of resonated with me, just because. You always want to do well, but it's not always going to go your way, and so there's going to be the ebbs and flows of life and of the season, and you just got to take it as it comes and make the most of it, and realize that we're all very lucky and fortunate to be doing what we're doing.
That's awesome. And so you do a lot of work with Toronto Sick Kids. How important is it to you and to other high-profile athletes to support children's health?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think you realize the kind of platform that you have as an athlete, and obviously, playing hockey in the city of Toronto, it's definitely really special. So just trying to use our platform for positive things. Obviously, like children's health and Sickkids Hospital, and being able to grow and build a relationship with them. And it's been a lot of fun getting to work with them and meet kids and meet families and just try to put a smile on some people's faces and give them an opportunity that they wouldn't necessarily get every day. So
That's awesome. So now we're going to do some rapid fire
All right.
questions. All right, you ready? Okay. When was the last time you beat your sister in golf?
only beat her one time, and it was probably my best round that I've ever played, like score-wise, regardless.
Really?
And it was not her best day, so I got pretty lucky. But that's the only time I've ever really even gotten close, and I was lucky that day. So.
Who was your favorite Mighty Ducks character as a kid?
That's a tough one because I don't know, like I liked Charlie Conway, because he's kind of the man, but
Yeah.
Goldberg the goalie
Goldberg, me
was
too.
Always,
Me too.
Always a character. I liked watching him.
What jersey at any level were you most proud of to put on for the very first time?
It would have to be wearing the USA jersey for the first time. That was pretty cool.
So your mom has some Mexican ancestry. What is your favorite Mexican meal that she makes for you?
Ooh, all of them, but my number one would be she makes a chicken tortilla soup. That's my favorite meal that she makes for me. So every time after the season ends and I go home, that's always the first meal that I ask for.
If you could hear one pump up song to lead you onto the ice, what would that be?
Ooh, that's a really good question, honestly, because I feel like it changes for me a lot.
Yeah.
You know, like, but right now, ooh. The boys like her. I wouldn't say the boys, but me and some like the guys listen to Little Baby. So
Yeah.
he's got this song called Freestyle. That's kind of his like original song that he kind of come up on, and we like pumping that. So I'd have to go with that one for right now.
Okay, so Justin Bieber is looking for a Leaf backup for his show. Who do you recommend?
Singing?
Yeah,
Ooh.
like who's the guy who's just a
I mean,
like?
probably like Mitchie or Holler. They like to get the karaoke going sometimes at the team parties. So they're pretty much the only two guys I've seen sing, and JT. But I'd probably have to put those two up there. They're pretty talented. They're pretty good at that.
So if the Leafs had decided to remove all of the mirrors in the rink, which Leaf would be most disappointed?
Willie Nylander for sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What is your favorite off-season activity?
My favorite off-season activity is probably tennis.
Tennis?
Yeah, last summer I played a lot of tennis, and it's kind of become my new hobby. So that's I've been taking it pretty seriously, like getting lessons and stuff and playing
Yeah,
a lot. So
really?
I'm a big fan of tennis. So that's my thing now.
Name one item you can't travel without.
I mean, it'd be kind of tough to travel without your phone, but other than that, maybe a toothbrush.
Toothbrush?
Yeah, toothbrush.
Finally, if you could play 3-on-3 with two former NHLers on your line, who would that be? Who would they be?
Two former NHLers. I think it'd be cool to play with two of the greatest players that ever played the game, in Mario and Wayne. So those two guys would be pretty fun to play with.
And awesome, we've come to the end of our interview. I want to thank you so much for joining. I had a lot of fun, and this is really going to help me with my tour. And yeah, I had a lot of fun.
Well, thanks
Thank
for
you very
having me. I
much.
had a lot of fun too. Thank you.
Thank you.